Radio Health Journal talks about suicide and children left behind after this.
People often ask me, how should I manage my money? Whether you're a multi-million-dollar investor or just starting out, the answer is Betterment. I'm John Stein, founder and CEO of Betterment. We created smarter technology to automate investing, help you make better financial decisions, invest for your personal goals, and stay on track for retirement. Betterment is the easier way to invest, at a fraction of the cost of traditional investment services. The revolution of smarter, more straightforward, personalized investing has begun, and we're leading the way. Betterment is already managing billions of dollars for more than 100,000 customers. Isn't it time you took control of your financial future? Sign up on your computer or smartphone today and receive up to 6 months free. Get full terms and conditions at betterment.com/podcast. Betterment. Investing made better. Sign up today at betterment.com/podcast.
Wendy Parmley was 12 years old when she woke one morning to her dad screaming. She ran to the hallway to find her father frantically pacing and crying outside the bathroom door. He told her, "Wendy, watch the kids, and whatever you do, don't go in the bathroom. Don't let anyone go in the bathroom." And with that, he ran out of the house and left Wendy guarding the door until help finally arrived. Later that morning, Wendy's father told her and her younger siblings that their mother had died of a heart attack.
The next day, I had a friend, and he happened to be the chief of police's son, and he told me we were playing neighborhood games. We were playing night games, kick the can or something like that, and he came up to me and he said, "I know how your mom died." And I'm like, "Yeah?" And he said, "She shot herself." And I'm like, "No, she didn't. She had a heart attack." And he continued to press me, and I ran home. And, by then I felt out of control, crazy. And I flung the door open, and I confronted my dad, who was there in our living room, and told him what my friend had said. And he did take me down to my bedroom, and he explained that Mom had indeed taken her life.
Parmley's new memoir is titled Hope After Suicide, One Woman's Journey from Darkness to Light.
I was devastated. How can you even wrap your head around your mom choosing to end her life and understand that as a 12-year-old? I was shocked, I was sad, I was traumatized, and my world ended.
And yet, Parmley had to soldier on with no counseling and no therapy. What was worse, she says, was that she had to keep her mother's suicide a secret from her siblings.
My dad had met with all of his siblings and my mom's siblings, and they had a pact to not tell the children, to try to protect us. It was just an unspoken rule. She died by a heart attack, and that's what we told people. And that was the story. I shared that into my 20s. But my other siblings, they learned as they got older, and friends told them. And that was not the way that should have been handled. They were devastated. They were angry. And even one of my younger sisters attempted to take her own life on the same day that my mom had taken her life. And we all were traumatized by that event as we learned of the cause of her death.
I think it is not desirable to keep any of it a secret, or the fact that the person took their own life.
That's Donna Sherman, CEO of the Dougy Center for Grieving Children and Families in Portland, Oregon, and author of Never the Same, Coming to Terms with the Death of a Parent.
I have never seen where that has been helpful. I don't use the word never very often. For 30 years of listening to families and being seeped in this work, I have yet to find any child ever say, "I'm glad they lied to me. That was really helpful."
But that's how it was 20 or 30 years ago. Back then, Sherman says, even mental health professionals believed it was better not to talk about suicide. She's glad that attitude has shifted, though not as dramatically as she'd like.
I hear this all the time. Kids are resilient. They bounce back. They'll get over it. They don't seem to be affected. All kinds of comments like that. And my response to all of that is, we know a lot about risk factors and protective factors for kids who are at risk for all kinds of reasons, because of poverty, because of abuse, because of early childhood loss. And they're not resilient in a vacuum. They're not necessarily going to be okay just by time.
Sherman says children need some of the same things adults do to begin their recovery. They need to talk about their grief just as much as adults do.
We know that there are factors that contribute to healthy grieving and processing of losses of all kinds. And that when children don't have those opportunities, they will manifest at some point in their lives. They'll manifest relationally. We know that kids who have early death, early parental deaths, are at higher risk than their non-bereaved peers for depression, for anxiety, for hopelessness, for relationship issues.
Sherman started a grief therapy group for kids back in the 1980s. She divided the kids by age and allowed children who had lost a parent for any reason to be part of the group.
But as our population grew and as we were noticing that when kids had, my dad died in a boating accident and my father got hit by a car and my mom died of a heart attack, and then it would come to this kid who would say, I pass. Because they already know it's not really socially acceptable to just say, my dad jumped off a bridge, my dad hung himself. So a lot of them were hesitant to even say those kinds of things, and most of them back in 1980s weren't using the word suicide. In fact, I still hear people saying the S word. A suicide death complicates grieving for families, for children in particular, and for teens, because of so many other associations around it.
Even recently, I had the opportunity to talk to an individual who lost her husband by suicide and had young children. I think her oldest was 9 or 10, and she hadn't told them how her husband had died yet. And really, it's so important to have that conversation and not to dramatize the event, but that young child needs to know how their dad or mom died and let it be okay to talk about, because there are certainly questions, and answer truthfully those questions.
Parmley and Sherman both say the biggest question kids have is why.
Why? Why? Why would my mom leave her kids? You know, could I have been a better child and maybe I could have prevented this? I remember thinking that. Or why wouldn't God bring her back to me? And also how? You know, and I asked my dad, where did she shoot herself? And I think I could have become a whole person more quickly and not had to wear that mask and been able to be more open and been able to put this experience in a place where there is peace much more quickly.
This is what I've learned from them over 30 years. They want the truth. They want to not be lied to. And those are similar, but they have some nuances that are different. So you don't have to tell me every single detail of everything that happened, but don't lie to me. If I ask a question, answer it honestly. If I don't ask, I may not be ready to hear all of it, but if I do ask, don't lie.
But why is an important question for more than just survivors. Sherman says that if all of us had a better understanding of why people take their own lives, there wouldn't be so much stigma and shame surrounding suicide. Instead, there would be compassion.
Because of the shame and the stigma that's often associated, kids don't have the same opening and opportunity to talk about their parent or their person who died of suicide in the same way and not defining them just by how they died. Like, my dad loved riding horses and he was such a good dad and he had a disease. I've had kids say this, he had a disease. His disease was depression, and his depression led him to hopelessness. And your dad died of a kidney disease, and my dad died of a disease that took him over. But I loved him, and he was a good dad, and I want to remember him. And that opportunity is often not fostered when someone dies of suicide.
Sherman says the terminology surrounding suicide also contributes to the stigma. She says that years ago, the nonprofit organization The Compassionate Friends started a PR campaign advocating that health professionals stop using the term committed suicide.
Because it ties back to when suicide was a crime, like you committed a crime, you committed suicide, and to try to destigmatize. So the more favored terminology would be died of suicide, or he jumped off a bridge, or he took his life, And I have always advocated for not using suicide as a noun. He was a suicide. We don't use terminology of he was a car accident, he was a heart attack, he was a cancer. Why do we say he was a suicide? It defines the person by the cause of their death.
No matter how it's phrased, many people consider suicide to be selfish. We look at how devastating it is for loved ones left behind. Both Parmley and Sherman say, in reality, suicide is about mental illness and unimaginable emotional pain.
I think the main message that I have is that there's hope. There's hope to heal. And as we can reach out in love and compassion without judgment, we can collectively heal our losses.
You can learn more about all our guests and find links to their websites by visiting our website at radiohealthjournal.net. Our writer-producer this week is Polly Hansen. Our production directors are Sean Waldron and Nick Hofstra. I'm Nancy Benson.
The American College of Physicians is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. ACP is an organization of internal medicine physicians or internists who are specialists that apply scientific knowledge and clinical expertise to the diagnosis, treatment, and compassionate care of adults across the spectrum, from health to complex illness. ACP President Dr. Wayne J. Riley explains why it is important for adults to think carefully about the type of physician that can care for them best.
Internal medicine physicians are trained to diagnose complex medical problems and manage acute illnesses. General internists provide comprehensive care for patients with one or more chronic illnesses such as hypertension or diabetes. Some internists subspecialize in a related area such as cardiology. Cardiologists subspecialize in diseases of the heart.
To become an internist, a medical school graduate must complete a 3-year residency. Subspecialty training usually requires an additional 1 to 3 years beyond residency. Find out more at acponline.org. That's acponline.org.